Hello everyone, let's start our Aeon Essays where we left on our previous video. So I think we have to start from here. Anyone taking chemistry 101 is likely to be faced with diagram of electrons orbiting in shells. So let's read the four species of this Aeon Essays. In atoms and molecules, electrons are everywhere. Look how the yellow cloud permeates the entire molecular volume in figure 1. Thus, when we see that atom and molecules are packed with electrons, the only conclusion is that they are filled with matters, not the opposite. So this passage is talking about atoms and molecules and electrons which are spread everywhere. But when we see atom and molecules are packed with electron, they are only reasonable conclusion, which is they are filled with matters, not the opposite. So let's moving toward the next passage of this particular essay. Despite all this, anyone taking chemistry 101 is likely to be faced with diagrams of electrons orbiting in shells, like concentric and spread layer with empty space between them. The idea that this diagram represents physical reality is a third common misconception. Electrons do not literally orbit around the atomic nucleus in the shape of these cells. So this is saying that in chemistry, all of we are studying about the diagram of electrons which are orbiting in cells. And these diagrams represent the physical reality in the third common misconception, which is the electrons do not literally orbit around the atomic nucleus in the shape of the cells. So let's moving toward the next species. In atoms and molecules, electron must have specific energy, each energy associated with a particular cloud shape. Consider, for example, an atom with a single electron. In the lowest possible energy, the ground energy level, this electrons delocalizes in the spherical cloud dense at the center of the atom and gradually fading out. The single electrons was wave function describing this cloud are called orbitals. So this passage is talking about orbital. What is orbit? So it says that the lower possible energy, the ground energy level, the electron delocalizes into a spherical cloud, which is the dense at the center of the atom and gradually fading out, and this single electron wave functions are called as orbital. Let's moving toward the next passage of this essay. At higher energy level, the single electrons delocalize into more complex clouds with nested spheres, multiple blobs, or even a doughnut shapes. Thus, when speaking of an atom and molecules, electrons are not little particles chaotically rocketing around the nuclei until they become a fuzzy cloud. As often depicted, and electrons are not in orbital nor do they populate them. Electrons are orbital, they are delocalized clouds. So this passage is saying that the higher energy levels where the single electrons delocalize into a more complex clouds with nested spheres, multiple blobs, or even a doughnut. This rocketing around the nucleus become a fuzzy clouds and which are often depicted which resulted that electrons are not in orbital nor they populate them, but the electrons are the orbital. Electrons are not in orbital, but electrons are orbital here. Let's moving toward the next species. With the multiple electrons which have been terra incognita in popular science, things get much more complicated. This is hardly a surprise since even a professional theoretical chemist are uncomfortable describing them despite their exceptional competency in predicting the properties of multiple electron systems. So this passage is saying that with the multiple electrons which have been a terra incognita become much more complicated. Even the professional theoretical chemists are uncomfortable in describing them, despite of their exceptional competency in predicting the properties of multi-electron systems. So let's moving to the next species. Like ill-fitting clothes, chemistry vernacular is filled with awkward analogies and descriptions. Chemists may say that an electron occupies or populate an orbital as if orbital were pre-existing places where electrons are put. Chemists often draw a diagram where orbitals are represented as short horizontal line and electrons as a small vertical arrow on those lines, like objects on cells. All this verbals and virtual metaphor fails to translate what quantum theory tells us about atoms and molecules. So this passage is saying that chemistry say that electron occupies and populate an orbital as if the orbital were pre-existing place where electrons are put. But in chemists, often draw a diagram where the orbitals are represented short horizontal line and electrons are small vertical arrows on those lines, which translates that what quantum theory tells us about atoms and molecules. So let's moving toward the next species. When dealing with multiple electron systems encompassing virtually all molecules, quantum theory no longer distinguishes between each electrons. They're all described by a single wave function, a single cloud. Nevertheless, a single electron's orbit are still a valid approximation that chemists constantly use to rationalize chemical reactions. The multi-electrons were functions resemble compositions of this individual cloud overlapping within the volume defining the molecules. They feel each other. They recombine into a new shape. Some bulges, others shrinks. The clouds screw, stretches, twist until they comfortably adapt, occupying every available space. It may look like a messy chalk drawer. So this person is saying that when dealing with the multiple electron system, quantum theory no longer distinguishes between each electron. They are all described by a single wave function, a single cloud. But a single orbital, electron orbital, are still a valid approximation that chemists constantly use to rationalize chemical reactions. So it is said that they recombine into the new shapes, new bulges, other shrinks, the clouds screw, the scratches and the twist until they comfortably adapt, occupying every available space. So let's moving toward the another series, which one I think is second last series of the species. For a fraction of a picosecond, the tempest rages and reshapes the molecular landscape until stillness is restored. Let's read what this passage is saying. A molecule is a static object without any internal motion. The quantum cloud of all nuclear electrons remain absolutely still for a molecule with a well-defined energy. This is irrelevant. Quantum theory does not predict vibrating nuclei or orbiting and spinning electron. Those dynamic features are classical and analogs to intrinsic quantum property. Angular moment, for instance, which is classical physics quantifying rotational speed, manifests as blob in wave function. The more numerous the blob, the bigger the angular momentum, even though nothing rotates. So this passage is saying that the quantum physics does not predict the vibrating nuclei or orbiting or spinning electron. Those dynamic features are classical analogy of this intrinsic quantum properties, which are so there is a numerous the bobs in the bigger the angular movement, even though nothing rotates. So let's moving toward the next. The time, however, comes into a play when a molecule collides with another one, triggering a chemical reaction. Then a storm strikes. The quantum steadiness bursts when the section of the electronic cloud pour from one molecule upon another. The cloud mix, reshapes, merge, and split. The nucleus cloud rearrange to accommodate themselves within the new electronic configurations. Sometimes even migrating between molecules for a fraction of a picoseconds. The tempest range and the reshape the molecule landside until the stillness is restored in newly formed compound. So it is saying that the quantum steadiness bursts when the section of the electronic cloud pour from one molecule upon another. The nucleus cloud rearrange and accommodate themselves within a new electronic configurations, which is migrating between the molecules. Let's moving toward the next phase. In the Flammarion engraving, a person at the edge of Earth dares to look beyond the firmament's dome to uncover the marvelous chemist machinery of cloud controlling the heaven. They could well be looking at a molecule instead. Then this not disturbing observer would find that nuclei and electrons are majestic, stable structure, close-packed clouds driving every aspect of matter as we know it. So this saying that the earth dared to look beyond the fermentation dome to uncover the marvelous machinery of cloud controlling the heaven. Which is not disturbing observer would found that nuclei and electrons are majestic, stable, structure, close-packed clouds driving every aspects of matter as we know it. Let's moving toward the next phases. My criticism of the empty atom picture isn't meant to shame people's previous attempt to describe atoms and molecules to the public. On the contrary, I applaud their effort in this challenging enterprise. Our common language institutions and even a basic reasoning process are not adapted to face quantum theory. This alien world of strangeness, surrounded by quirk landscape, we mostly cannot make sense. So what author is saying that he doesn't want to shame any people who previously failed to attempt describing the molecules and atoms to the public, but he really applaud their efforts. But in this alien world, the strangeness surrounded by quirky landscape or mostly cannot make sense to him or anyone. So let's moving toward the next business. And there is so much we do not understand. We have yet to learn how to reconcile the dual wave like and practice like behavior of matter. We do not even know whether a wave function have objective reality. Our brain melt facing the multiple potential interpretation of quantum theory to the point that outstanding scientists seemingly gave up hope that we may reach a scientific consensus. We turn a blind eye to the dirty trick we carry from the conceptual construction of quantum theory to the actual predictions. So here author is trying to say that our brain facing the multiple potential interpretations of quantum theory to the point that outstanding scientists seemingly gave up hope that we may reach a scientific consensus. So let's moving toward another series of the phases. Which one is the last? The account of the quantum molecular world I presented in one comfortably safe ground. Let's see what's this hold. We could conform to the unsatisfying shut up and calculate attitude that have accompanied the increasingly weird prediction of quantum theory, which enable the outstanding technology advancement of the past 100 years, from laser to microprocessor. However, we do not want to make only useful predictions. Our ultimate goal is to tell story about our universe. Thus, we calculate but do not shut up. Generation of scientists and science popularized do their best to translate all this strangeness into friendly metaphor of the theoretical body still full of mystery. We built new mental image of quantum world one step at a time, even under the risk of tripping up here and there. Here, author is saying that the main motto of our scientists or researchers are to present the universe what the reality is. They are still doing their best to translate all the strangeness into friendly metaphor of theoretical body, which are still full of mystery. We built a new mental image of quantum world at with one step, with all the risk. So let's moving toward the last passage of this essay. The account of quantum molecule world I present is on comfortably safe ground. It is based on quantum theory domain that is highly consensual among the specialists. It is town square of what the Nobel laureate Frank Milquist called the core theory, the physics framework describing fundamental particles, their interaction and Albert Einstein general relativity. Physicists are so confident about this core stability that they believe it should persist within any new theory of matter develops in future. So this passage is saying that the quantum theory domain is highly consensual among the specialists. The Nobel laureate Frank Wilkes called the core theory, which says that the physics framework describing the fundamental particle, their interactions, and Albert Einstein's general relativity. Physicists are so confident about this core stability that they believe it should persist within any new theories of matter developed in the future. So what the last line is says that being this confident and realizing we are not made up of empty space may be a shooting thought. This essay was made a possible thought the support of a grand. Sorry, it's not our theory. Sorry, so this all about this Aeon Essay. Thank you to be the part of to be with me till now. Hope you see you guys with another Aeon Essays tomorrow. Bye. Have a great day.